I am Clara Benson. I am 32 years old, and I live alone in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon. The rooms are quiet most of the time. The mornings are empty. Even the sun seems slow to rise here. I wake up to silence that feels heavier than sleep. It has been 4 years since Daniel left. 4 years of quiet nights where I talk to no one, where I try not to remember the way he used to smile at me and then at nothing else but his freedom. I lost not just him, but the life I imagined, one with warmth and small, ordinary happiness. My apartment feels too large now. Each corner reminds me of what I do not have. The living room has a couch no one sits on. The kitchen smells faintly of old dinners I never finished. The bedroom is colder than it should be. Even my shadow seems distant in these walls. I remember when I first found out I was pregnant. I had been overjoyed, trembling with hope. I thought it would bring him closer. I thought he would want this child, our child. But he didn't. He denied it. Denied me. Denied us. The memory of his face, empty of affection, full of impatience, is still vivid. For months after, I wandered through my days like a ghost. I worked at the small bookstore downtown, arranging books and hearing the rustle of pages. It was quiet work, and it gave me some kind of purpose, but it could not fill the emptiness. I came home to these silent walls, and I waited for the phone to ring, for someone to knock, for a moment to feel less invisible. Nothing came. Friends tried to reach out. Their voices sounded far away. I nodded, smiled, but inside, the hollow remained. I did not cry every day, but when I did, it was silent and deep, shaking me in ways that no one could see. Nights were the worst. I lay awake listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator, feeling the space beside me, empty. The nights whispered of all the things I lost and all the things I could never have. I do not talk about him. Not to my mother, not to my sister, not even to my coworkers. It is a shame I carry alone. Some days, I pretend I am fine, laughing at jokes, arranging books, watering the few plants that survived my neglect. But at the core, I am waiting for a life that feels like mine again, waiting for a warmth I no longer recognize. Sometimes, I stare at the empty rooms and wonder if I am living in a space meant only for absence. The walls do not hug me. The floors do not comfort me. Only the memories of what I lost linger, soft and sharp at the same time. One rainy afternoon, I was leaving the bookstore when I saw a small boy standing under the awning, soaked. He had dark curls plastered to his forehead and big, uncertain eyes. He looked lost. My first instinct was to keep walking. People always need help, but I had nothing left to give. Then he looked at me. His lips trembled, and a small, "Excuse me," reached my ears. My heart clenched. Something about him reminded me of. I stopped myself. I could not let memories sweep me away again. "I'm lost," he said softly. "I can't find my mom." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore him, walk into the safety of my empty apartment. Another part, fainter, cautious, wanted to help. I knelt slowly, keeping my voice calm. "Okay, let's see if we can find her." He nodded, and we walked toward the nearby coffee shop. He talked a little, mostly questions about my hair, my coat, the way the rain felt on his face. I answered quietly, careful not to reveal too much about myself. Something about the way he trusted me, even for a moment, was strange. Scary. Warm. I hadn't felt warmth in years. I felt it now, mixed with hesitation. Could I care for someone again? Would I let myself? We found his mother 15 minutes later, a panicked woman hugging him tightly. She thanked me, her voice trembling. I nodded, muttering something, and stepped back into the rain. I should have felt relief, but instead, I felt a strange emptiness. A shadow of hope. That night, I couldn't sleep. I thought about the boy and his mother, about how small gestures could create ripples I did not expect. Could I be part of something like that again? Could I trust anyone after everything I had lost? I did not have answers. Only questions, trembling like the boy's little hand in mine. But for the first time in years, the silence of my apartment did not feel completely cold. There was a small warmth. A hint of something that might grow, if I let it. After that rainy day, small things began to shift in my life. It started with a phone call from my sister, Lydia, checking in. I usually ignored her messages, but this time, I answered. "Clara, are you okay?" she asked, softly. I think so," I murmured. It was strange to say it aloud. I wasn't really okay, but saying it felt like a step. Days turned into quiet routines. I began walking to the corner bakery each morning. The baker, a gentleman named Sam, always asked if I wanted the usual. I nodded, appreciating the predictability. Sometimes, he would offer an extra pastry, just to see me smile. I didn't smile much, but I felt the warmth. Then there was Ethan, a boy who lived across the hall. He was 6, curious, and endlessly persistent. One morning, he knocked at my door holding a small toy car. "I made this for you," he said shyly. I knelt to take it, my hands trembling. "It's beautiful," I whispered. We began small routines together. Breakfast on weekends. Short walks in the park. Sometimes just sitting on the steps outside, sharing silence. He never pressed questions. I never volunteered. We simply existed near each other, like fragile companions learning to trust again. "You like stories?" I asked one afternoon. "Sometimes," he replied, eyes wide. So I read to him. Soft, quiet readings. Stories of children discovering the world. He listened intently. Sometimes he fell asleep halfway through. I stayed, watching him breathe, feeling a tenderness I hadn't known for years. There were nights when I worried too much. Nights when I remembered Daniel and the life that could have been. But Ethan's presence, gentle and consistent, started to ease that weight. One evening, after a long walk, he turned to me. "Clara, will you be here tomorrow?" I hesitated. The question carried more than its words. "Yes," I said finally, softly. He smiled. Small, quiet, perfect. And for the first time in years, I realized I wanted to keep my promises. Not to anyone else. Not to the past. But to him. To this small connection that felt alive. I didn't know where it would go, or if it would last. But the seed of hope had been planted. I started noticing other things too. My apartment didn't feel as cold. The mornings weren't completely silent. I talked more with Lydia. I laughed a little more with Sam. And in the quiet, watching Ethan sleep after story time, I understood that healing didn't arrive all at once. It grew slowly, like light through a cracked window, gentle and persistent. I still remembered Daniel. I still felt the ache. But alongside it, there was a fragile, trembling warmth. A promise forming. Not a promise of perfection, but of presence. Of trying again. It started with silence. Not the quiet I had grown used to, but a silence heavy with absence. Ethan's mother, Clara, hadn't known her name until now. Anna stopped letting me see him in the afternoons. No explanations. No notes. Just nothing. I tried calling. No answer. I went to the park where we walked. He wasn't there. The swings moved slightly in the wind, empty. I stood frozen, heart hammering. The warmth I had felt, so carefully nurtured, was slipping away. Days passed. My apartment felt colder than ever. I wondered if I had done something wrong. Had I overstepped? Had I failed him? But I could not reach him. Not him, not Anna. The quiet returned, sharper this time, like glass pressing against my chest. Then came the email. Anna wrote that she had decided Ethan should spend more time with his father. That he needed stability, and that she didn't trust me with him. I read it over and over. My hands shook. I wanted to scream, but my voice failed me. I remembered Daniel. The child I had carried. The child he denied. And now, years later, I felt history repeating. Betrayal. Abandonment. Denial. I tried to explain myself to Anna. I wanted to tell her I would never hurt him. That I only wanted to care. She didn't reply. I left messages. Silence. The room I had begun to feel warmth in turned into a cage again. My chest tightened, my eyes ached. Even Sam noticed I hadn't been in. "You've been quiet," he said gently. I nodded. How could I explain this? That hope had been snatched from me, leaving me raw and unsteady. Ethan's absence haunted every corner of my apartment. His little toy car sat on the kitchen counter, a small reminder of what I had almost held. I touched it sometimes, my fingers trembling. My mind filled with what-ifs. I cried alone at night, but not loudly. Quiet sobs that shook my body, tears soaking the pillow. I wanted to understand why people could take joy and hope away so easily. Why the small sparks of connection I had begun to trust could vanish in a heartbeat. And worse, I realized that my own heart had begun to open again. I had let myself care. I had let myself hope. And now, it felt like punishment. The betrayal was not dramatic. No shouting, no confrontation. Just a quiet removal of something precious. The silence was louder than any argument. And I understood then, with cold clarity, how fragile trust could be. That night, I could not sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, the room dark and still, except for the hum of the heater. My hands were trembling. My chest felt heavy, as if the air itself had weight. I took Ethan's little toy car and held it close. My fingers shook. My eyes filled with tears. I whispered his name softly, over and over, hoping somehow he could hear me. Memories of Daniel flashed in my mind. The child I had carried. The child I had been denied. And now, the warmth I had finally begun to feel was gone too. I realized that some losses never truly leave you. They burrow deep. They return when you allow yourself to care again. I cried then, uncontrollably. Shaking, sobbing, unable to stop. My body trembled as if it were trying to shake out the pain lodged inside. The room felt cold. The shadows on the walls seemed larger, heavier. I pressed the toy car against my chest, wishing it could fill the void, wishing it could bring back what I had lost. I can't, I whispered to the empty room, my voice breaking. I can't lose you too. The wind outside rattled the window, and I felt it as if it were a cold finger pressing against my heart. Every sob echoed the past, every trembling hand traced the emptiness left behind. It was unbearable. The truth hit me fully. I had allowed myself to hope. I had allowed my heart to open. And now, just like before, it was denied. The realization was sharp, unavoidable. The tears came faster. My chest heaved. My hands were wet with them. I felt small, insignificant. A child of my own past, abandoned once again. The room offered no comfort. The walls were silent witnesses to my despair. I understood then, fully, that healing is fragile. That hope, when broken, leaves scars that ache more than the original loss. I curled up on the floor, holding the toy car. I let the crying take over. The cold wind of reality pressed in from every side. And yet, beneath the pain, there was something strange, a faint heartbeat of survival, the raw, trembling awareness that I was still here. Morning came quietly. I sat by the window, watching the light spread slowly across the empty streets. The room was still, but it felt less heavy. My hands were no longer shaking. My chest, though sore, carried a steady rhythm. I thought of Ethan. I thought of Daniel. I thought of all the moments I had lost, all the doors closed in my face. And yet, I was still here. I had survived. I had cried and trembled, and still, I breathed. I understood something then. Pain does not disappear. Loss does not vanish. But it shapes you. It teaches you who you are, what you can endure, and what you might still give. I had learned that hope can be fragile, but it can also exist quietly, even in absence. I put Ethan's little toy car on the shelf, a reminder of love I had given, of connection I had felt. It was not gone from me, not completely. The warmth it carried could stay, even if only inside my heart. I no longer expected perfect endings. I no longer waited for life to return what it had taken. I would carry the memories, the losses, the longing, but also the small, trembling understanding that I could care again. Slowly. Carefully. And as I sipped my coffee, the sunlight touching my face, I realized I was learning to live with both pain and hope. To survive and to grow quietly, without guarantee, without certainty. I was stronger than I had known. I was patient. I was human. And for now, that was enough.